Hey everyone, welcome to episode 7 of Swords, Shields, etc. I'm your host, Arthur, and with me again are Justin and Dan, as usual.
Hello. Hi.
Today, Justin and I are gonna talk a little bit about a convention that we both went to in Philly. PAX, the video game convention, has started a new event called PAX Unplugged, which is focused on board games, tabletop RPGs, card games, and the types of games you play without a computer or a console, basically. And we went. What was it now? It was November 14th, was it?
Like 17th that
Yeah,
weekend.
17th, 18th, 19th. We went all 3 days. Got to play a lot of fun games and hang out with meet a couple people who make the games and stuff like that. And try out some things that we've been wanting to try out for a while that just either just came out or are about to come out. Um, so if we want to talk about that experience, you know,
Yeah. So, first of all, I had a lot of fun over there. I mean, I didn't play exclusively tabletop RPGs because the lines for those are insane, lists everywhere, but playing board games were fun as well. And the tabletop RPGs I got to play, well, the only one I got to play was one that I wanted to anyways. Plus, we got what was it? We bought the starter kits for Sentinels of the Multiverse, the RPG that they were demoing over there as well. I think the actual one is coming out soon, maybe a couple months.
I can check on it right now actually.
Yeah, but I was interested to see that because that's an entire game franchise, and we've all played Sentinels of the Multiverse, the cooperative card game. When I saw that they had an RPG, I was like, how do you make it exactly like? Because the starter kit only has like the Freedom Five, which is like Sentinel and Tachyon and like all of the ones that you get basically in the starting box of the card game. And I was like, how the hell, like, they don't show a lot in like this is what a character has to have, but it doesn't answer like, but how do I make my own character? There's not a whole lot of guidelines there so far, which I found interesting, but it's just the starter kit, so
So you can only play the characters that they have pre-gen for you because the like character creation rules don't come in it.
so that's the only thing they've shown so far in the starter kit. And like historically, like even D&D 5e, like they only give you like these are pre-gen characters, and you can't really go beyond that. So with Sentinels, it kind of makes sense because the entire game is already like based on these characters,
Yeah.
as opposed to like D&D and Pathfinder, where it's like no, the whole concept is making your own characters. I'm just curious on how it would like how everything will like work mechanically when it's like this is a completely new character that like is in this universe.
and yeah, I know we talked to somebody who was the tabling for the Sentinels guys, and he said that there's a character creation rule set that they're going to be coming out with, but it's not out yet. As far as I can see, I don't have a release date for the full uh, game, but I know the starter kit's releasing in later December, unless you go to a convention. They have a couple conventions they're going to where you could buy it there. And again, I think the starter it's more like a demo than anything else.
Yeah, but like looking at the mechanics of it, a lot of it was like, oh, these are flaws. Like these are basically playing to character flaws. It's sort of very similar to Masks, where you're a superhero. No one like the superhero really never dies unless you're in a comic book or a movie where we can bring you back later. In an RPG, it's a bit harder to do that. So here are like you can't really lose, but here are your flaws and things that might happen if you like don't succeed all the way, or if you just right out fail. You won't like die because this isn't that kind of game, but your character kind of like loses self confidence, kind of. So very similar to Masks.
I think it's a little more punishing than Masks though, because Masks,
Well, yeah,
I don't think you can take like the easy way out like you can with some of the things in Mask.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it like as rules heavy?
So from what I could tell, at least from like the GM part of the book, a lot of it comes down to, okay, as the GM, these are what the characters consider the flaws of their characters are. So you need to ride these home. Like these are basically where we want you to go in that direction. Again, starter kit, so It's like, oh, that guy's very confident, or that guy's very like judgmental onto others.
Well, is it still how do you determine like combat and things like that? Is it rolls or like cards?
So
or...
you roll, I believe
It's still rolls.
Yeah, still rolls.
There are 3 types of dice. There's a min dice, a mid dice, and a max die. I don't exactly remember how that works, but I'm looking at it right now.
Is it all like D6s or D20s?
No, so it depends. It depends on who your character is, because your min and mid will change depending. So obviously, like, the range changes as a result of the other 2 die.
Yeah, so each hero, I'm just going to pull out...
Yeah, I know there's
Legacy.
no D20, though. That's for sure. It goes up to a D12.
Yeah,
it doesn't
it's
go
D12
beyond
is the largest die you get here.
Yeah.
I appreciate the love for D12, but I'm saddened by the loss of D20. I never really get to use D12s in my games.
Right? No, so I think one of the things is really big is that every ability has a different die, essentially. It's not, oh, just roll the D20 and something will happen. Or just roll 2d6 because you always roll 2d6, which I do like. One, because you get to roll more die, because rolling just d6s or just rolling a d20 gets really boring after a while. But after seeing, like, every ability has one. So it's like, okay, so Absolute Freeze is now going to freeze himself because, you know, that's Absolute Zero, sorry, because that's just what he does. Well, you got to use a d4 because that's like a minimum ability. So, you know, hits with some ice abilities. Because, like the card game, all of the elemental types follow in as well.
I wonder how that's going to reflect on the final game, where like you're creating your own abilities.
Exactly, that's what I'm curious about. Because part of me thinks they'll go more down the mutants and masterminds kind of route, where they're like, oh, here are the abilities, like, and these are the points you will use to get for it. But it seems very... Because... let's be honest, if a player just walked up to a GM and said, I want the ability to have death eye beams, and whenever I look at something, it dies.
That sounds familiar.
Well, that's... exactly. But that's like... okay, how do I balance that in terms of a die roll?
Yeah, it could be something... I'm not familiar with the system you talked about, but didn't you play that one anime system where, like...
Yeah...
And that's kind of like in Pathfinder, how you can play the alternate races, and you get a certain amount of like RP or whatever it's called.
Yeah, RP race points. Yeah.
Maybe they could have the ability to be like that, where like if you want like a beam type ability, it's like 1 point, and then you get a certain amount of abilities, and you have to you can like make one ability that you can spend like 5 points on, and then one that you can only spend like 3 points on, something like that.
Yeah, so, that's the very good description of the system. Generally, the problem I have with that system generally is that it's really hard to balance. Like, the games that you have those in, you're expecting your PCs to be able to stomp just about any obstacle they run into in a fight. Because they're going to be, oh, I picked up the ability to fly, so now I don't have a problem. How many points is that? Oh, it's just 5 points. How many do you get? Oh, just 120.
Well, yeah, obviously in that system, everything's a little exaggerated, but maybe in this system they'll do a better job of reining it in. Then again, we don't even know how the character creation works, so...
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the other problem. But if I had to speculate, because the fact that you add dies, I'm curious on how you would make your own character. Because how would you say, oh, this ability is definitely a D4, not a D6? Because...
yeah, exactly. It's going to be interesting to see how they determine all those things.
Yeah, and it could just be that they have abilities set aside in the player handbook.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, here are the 20 abilities. You can pick 3 of each. Well, the other thing, too, I'm looking at it now. Your health range determines which abilities you can use as well.
Exactly, yeah. So when you get weaker, you can use, like, your
better
strongest
abilities. Yeah. So the lower health you have, the better abilities you have access to.
Because their reasoning is you don't really start using all your power until you're backed up against a wall.
That's kind of cool, but it's also kind of limiting.
Yeah, I like that, because taking damage isn't necessarily bad in that scenario. Because you're like, oh, I've taken some damage, but it's okay because I can now use this ability to get out of this mess, or something along those lines. But then the question comes, why didn't you fucking use it sooner?
Well, you can't. You can't use it sooner because
I think what Justin meant was like the in-story reason why you didn't whip out your super ability, and I guess that could come down to like some fluff thing like adrenaline or pressure. something stupid.
You just didn't believe enough,
Yeah,
you know.
power of friendship.
Similar to the card game too, you have one ability you're able to use when you're out or dead. I mean, not dead. When
Well,
you
you're like
leave.
unconscious or out of the fight, essentially.
Yeah, so I know, legacies is basically, he grants bonuses to his allies.
Which I think is cool. They've definitely taken a lot of influence from the card game, which is very successful. Which I like the idea that they're using this and like, oh, we should just make an RPG because it just seems logical because the next expansion is their last expansion for the card game, which looks really cool, by the way, after seeing that at PAX. But
yeah.
I'm just curious on how you guys think of using like canon characters in this kind of scenario. Like if you have like, oh, there's the Lord of the Rings RPG, something like that. Yeah, but you're not going to play like Aragon or Frodo or something like that. You're going to play some other guy, but the power level is similar most of the time.
I think the difference between something like Sentinels and something like Lord of the Rings is like the story in Lord of the Rings is so like established and like you can't really like change the story of Lord of the Rings to make like one of the weaker characters really strong, just like you couldn't do it in like a series like Star Wars or even video games like The Legend of Zelda. Like Tingle isn't gonna all of a sudden be like super powerful. He's still gonna do like Tingle stuff. But the thing about Sentinels of the Multiverse is like if there's a story there, I'm certainly not privy to it.
Yeah, and I think there is canonical events.
There is a story. Yeah, they have a podcast called The Letters. I don't know the release schedule, but they have I think like over 40 episodes at this point, just talking about a single character each episode, and it's like I've listened to a couple. It's very interesting, at least listening to the characters I like to hear about. But again, I don't know like everything. I know there are some people that get really excited about it because they have done a lot of world building for that, which is cool. Because you don't necessarily need to do world building, but they're like, nah, it's superheroes. We can go so much further.
Well, I think the thing is that they started with the game and then did the world building, and the game is pretty independent of the world building. Whereas with like those franchises we were talking about before, the world building is the main like media point.
Yeah, like I know there's a popular one right now is Game of Thrones has an RPG, but I think it takes place like a couple hundred years before anything in the TV show or the books.
Yeah.
And that's their way to get around it.
Yeah, and you're not going to play as the characters from the TV.
You can't. I mean, technically you could, but they don't provide any information.
Yeah, they don't give you the, oh, this is where we want you to be playing.
This is your stats if you're Tyrion Lannister. No, it's like usually you're playing characters that are hundreds of years before or after Game of Thrones. I forget exactly how it's set.
Yeah, like, and I mean that's not uncommon. Like I've played a Pendragon campaign where we were all like set in the Game of Thrones universe, and we were like talking with the NPCs and whatnot, and it was like, oh yeah, no, that's fine. Like as long as we're not playing as the NPCs, I'm not worried about. But
yeah, I think also as long as if your group doesn't want to stick to canon exactly, because
exactly,
but especially with something like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, the canon is really
no. Frodo, he died. I have the ring now,
yeah.
And I'm gonna make the journey to Mordor. Like,
yeah,
okay, yeah, sure, whatever floats your boat, man.
But again, going back to Sentinels, like there is that canon that exists, but they also provide you the character sheets for those characters in that canon. So, I also don't see how. I'm curious how character creation works for Sentinels, because for something like Lord of the Rings, I can imagine it'd be a similar system to, D&D or Pathfinder or anything like that, to build a character in the Lord of the Rings universe.
And character creation is like so important.
Yeah.
Good and bad character creation like really makes and breaks games for me. I wasn't super excited for Masks because of the character creation, but was so like weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's very more dialogue focused. It's not, oh, here are my stats, here are what I can do. It's, oh, here's what we did as a group, and oh yeah, let's just talk about it. Let's not write anything down.
Yeah, it makes you fluff a lot more of your character and like.
But see, that's what I'm curious about, at least for Sentinels, because I can definitely see the appeal of playing as, oh, I want to be Legacy, and like I just want the power fantasy of playing as him. But why should I play this game to be a hero when there are other games for that? Is really the thing I'm wondering about.
Is there a Marvel or DC RPG? There is, isn't there?
There was a Marvel one. I don't think it was very successful.
It was not very successful, if I remember correctly. Just a lot of people complained about the same thing as Mutants and Masterminds kind of system, where yeah, it's kind of broken. Oh no, I think no, the Marvel one has you playing as the Marvel characters.
That's what I was gonna say. I think you were locked into.
Yeah,
Marvel
you're like,
characters.
oh, I'm Wolverine. You're the Hulk. Things like that. And I think the problem with that is more along the lines of, in Marvel, power, like, the power of the characters is very subjective depending on the author, generally. So, making a board game of that where it's not, no, Wolverine loses to Hulk every single fucking time is a bit harder to say. Also, because people are like, no, I want to play as Jubilee. And then another person's like, well, I'm going to play as Hulk because easy. What does Jubilee do in the rest of this time? Do I go talk to Cyclops and go to Xavier's school? No, there's like not. I believe like for that game, combat had to be really good to make it worthwhile.
I don't think it was. I've never played it, but
yeah, same. But that just how I would imagine if I wanted to play Marvel, I would need the combat to be really fun.
Mm-hmm. I kind of wish now, looking back, that we had the time to sit down and play a little bit of Sentinels.
Yeah,
we didn't get around to it because with all the sign-ups and stuff, there was other stuff.
That's one of my few gripes with PAX Unplugged, because I think they did a really good job, at least like trying to showcase the games and everything. But the way they have it set up, because playing a board game and then like a TTRPG takes so much longer to do, they have to have sign-ups. But if you don't know where the sign-ups are, or how many there are per day, or if that thing is even there, you won't get to play it that day.
Yeah, we got lucky we were there for 3 days, but people who were there just on Saturday or just on Sunday or just on Friday were really just... You're kind of shit out of luck, because you don't sign up for the one game you want in the first 10 minutes, you're not going to get a sign up for it. I mean, there was a game we sat down for, we're not a tabletop RPG, but me and we sat down for Hands of Fate, the card game, not the game. And I think that guy was running 2 sessions of it a day, because it took like 2 hours to play it. And
yeah, which in 3 days
it's 4 people. It's 4 people each session. So, first of all, he was only getting 8 people a day to play his game, which
that's like 25 people over the course of a weekend.
Yeah,
I mean, again, that's not including the people that come watch, but that also does not include the people like, I want to play that game again.
Yeah, there were so many people who sat down and were like, "Oh, I'd really love to try this," and just they weren't given the opportunity.
It just doesn't work very well. I mean, I don't know how you would solve that for that guy. You'd need like more room, more people helping. Yeah, shorter game, but that like the style of that game is just long. You can't
do that. More tables, maybe.
Yeah, more people that know how to run the game. Like that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, I loved it. I had a great time with it, but I felt really bad for everybody else who was looking at it and be like, "Oh, I want to try that out when they're done," and the guy being like, "Well, this is the last session of the day."
I mean, that was the same thing for Sentinels. Like the reason we couldn't play with any of the people that like made the game was that they had the lists full, and I only found out at like 2:00 in the afternoon. All the lists were full, so I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, well, we only found out on Saturday about it, and then Sunday we were going to head out early, so we just didn't have the time.
Which was actually interesting, because I did not realize, like, they had so much, like, they had an entire room just of Sentinel stuff, which I'm so happy about, but at the same time, I'm like, wow, man, you guys have a booth in the main hall, and you have a separate room just for Sentinel. Like, you have Sentinels, the next expansion playing over there, and then these other tables where you're playing the RPG. I was just like, there's no way I would have found this if I didn't have to wait in line to get into the main hall.
I gotta give it to those guys, though. They're so nice.
Oh, yeah, that guy gave us 2 free cards because we
liked the game. Because he overheard me saying to you that I enjoy Sentinels, and so we talked to him for a little bit. He gave us 2 free promos.
Yeah, which was really nice of him, and I'm glad he did, but I couldn't get the signature because they were always busy, which just sucked.
But anyway,
so what else did you do?
Yeah, so we tested a lot of board games, and we played a lot of games back at the hotel and all that. But one of the things that I know Justin and I wanted to talk about, we got to try out Starfinder, which was nice because we've been talking about that for a while now. We've wanted to try it out.
I mean, I own the book now, so technically, yeah, you're like, I could play it, but it's just, you need people, you need to set up time. It's just hard. It's hard.
Yeah, but we got to sit down and we tried a little bit of the space combat because
Yeah, so let me explain the system because it's a bit strange.
Sure.
So basically, they have like 5 to 6 tables of Starfinder, and then the rest of it is just Pathfinder. So they're like, okay, there are 5 tables. There are 5 different things that each of these tables does a different thing. There's like combat. There's
well, there's 5
boarding.
different scenarios.
Yeah, 5 different scenarios, but it's all along the same plot. So if you did the same thing, it's like, oh, no. You're on the same mission as before. You're just a bit further back now. We were fortunate enough to get the one thing that's truly different compared to Pathfinder, which was starship combat, because we don't have starships in Pathfinder, at least not that I'm aware of. We have airships, but not starships. So, just straight up, I enjoyed the combat. The combat was really interesting. I liked the way they decided to make it fair.
What I liked, I was worried when we sat down. Basically, you're supposed to start on the first mission, which is just, escaping some kind of facility. But someone in our group who had sat down had already played that scenario. So the GM with us asked if we wanted to just skip ahead to do the starship stuff, and everyone at the table seemed pretty down for that. And I know that I was a little bit worried because I was like, well, now all of a sudden there's 5 of us playing this game, and we are one icon on. I didn't think there was going to be enough for everybody to do during the starship combat, which I was surprised when there was roles for everybody, which was really nice.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. When I saw like, oh, those are all the roles, I'm just gonna be standing by the door, and when we're like really close, I'm gonna jump over to the other ship. That was my plan. Instead, I had to be the gunner.
Yeah,
so.
I didn't think everybody would have a role. I thought it was just going to be the pilot and the captain and maybe a gunner, basically. But there was 5 of us, flying this starship, and the way it works is kind of like Star Trek sounding, where you have a captain, obviously, a pilot, a gunner, a science officer. There's what other positions were there? Engineer. I think there was another position that we didn't have as well.
Yeah, we were missing one person.
Sounds like FTL.
Yeah, I think that's a very good way of putting it, actually. It feels sort of like FTL. So
Yeah.
everyone has a different role, and no one can do that role but you. That's really the only difference. Except the captain. The captain can do whatever they want, whether it's, I'm going to encourage you to land some more damage because we really need that, or I'm going to help you get an extra bonus on this if I make a charisma roll, or something like that.
So the captain, in a weird way, kind of works like a bard.
Yeah, in that scenario.
Yeah. So they make rolls to either encourage the science officer to do something or the engineer to do something. It does affect a lot. So if the captain, for instance, encourages the gunner gets a second shot.
I don't know. It was just more damage or something.
It was something like that. The engineer, if he encourages the engineer, he can push the ship further. If he encourages the pilot, there's some bonuses that I
we didn't get to see all of it because we had 4 rounds. So there wasn't exactly a lot of opportunities to see everything.
Was that because the scenario ended, or did you guys lose? Those 4 rounds doesn't seem like a lot of.
There just isn't enough time.
Yeah, they wanted to get more
it's
people
45
on the table.
Minutes. Yeah, it's 45 minutes, but the problem is that except for the gunner, everyone has a full sheet on what they can do in space combat. So they had to spend 5 minutes reading it, whereas the gunner, which was me, had to read 2 lines, which is 1, shoot 1 gun, or shoot 2 guns at -4 for each shot. I wonder which one I should do.
So do these classes correspond to classes that your initial class builds, or do you take these on just for space battle?
So no, there were how it works is, you have the gunnery skill, so you get an additional +1. You add your basic attack bonus if you're the gunner because you're using a weapon. Simple stuff like that still sticks in Pathfinder. But everyone still has the engineer. You're the best engineer because you have a computer's roll of +11. So we're obviously going to make you the engineer. The pilot has a piloting roll that they can make. So you're obviously going to be the pilot. There are still bonuses that come from character creation into it, but I feel we could have easily interchanged. I could have been the pilot. I probably would have bonked into the other ship, but I could have tried.
Yeah, it's not like you're not your class choice doesn't affect what you do on the ship at all. So I know I was an infiltrator, which means I had a higher dex, which helps with the piloting roles. But I also piloting is a skill like swim or something in Pathfinder. So you just kind of put your skill points into piloting or gunnery or engineering and stuff like that, and that'll give you those bonuses. So you can kind of choose to class yourself into it that way, but it's not like you start off as a pilot class. Yeah, and you want the captain to have high charisma. So he was playing, I forget what the role is, but it's basically a space bard, our captain. So, but the way it works,
I think it was an envoy.
That's
what it sounds
envoy,
like to me.
yeah,
I can't
think that's what it
remember.
was.
Can't remember for sure. I'm looking at the book.
But the way it works is the first you have the two ships on the field. You really need a map for it to work, though. I can't imagine playing without that, because there's.
Yeah, no, this is not something you can do in theater of the mind because it actually matters. Like, no, we're pointing towards their aft boosters. Let's hit it. Like, you need the map to do this. It's impossible.
And you need
without
a map that has octagons instead of squares too, because the ship turns. That's how the ship turns. It turns in like octagon shapes, which is weird. But basically, the round starts with both pilots rolling a piloting roll, and whoever.
No, that's just for movement. It starts with the engineer, and then it moves on to the piloting with the science officer deciding what they want to do. Then it goes to the gunner. All while the captain can say, "I want to do that too," whenever he wants.
Well, not whenever. It's once a turn, once a round.
Once a turn, yeah. So that's like once a turn. But the interesting thing, and you mentioned piloting, was that if you win the roll, you don't go first, you go second. Which I think was really interesting and actually really smart in terms of the design. Because you want to react. Because you move at the same time, but you want to be the one who has the advantage, right? So you want to be second. You want to be able to say, no, I'm pointing towards that area and I can shoot them.
But you don't move at the same time. That's the point. They move.
I mean, in terms of the round, movement happens at the same time. Like, one person moves and then the second person moves. It's not, I move, shoot, okay,
Yeah,
now it's your
it's
turn.
move, then shoot.
Yeah, everything is like, whenever I'm doing something, they have to copy the action after me, essentially.
So, so let's say I rolled higher on the piloting roll, the enemy ship moves, and now me and the captain can discuss how we want to maneuver around the enemy ship, but you don't invoke attacks of opportunity or anything for moving around them. The pilot has some maneuvers they can do. They can like slide the ship. They can do little barrel rolls or 360 or loop de loop or whatever.
I think it was like a run by.
Yeah, run by roll. Run by is the only one where if you fail the run by roll, you get to do the run by, but the other ship gets a free shot at you. But if you succeed, you don't. You just go right through them, and then you do a 180 at the end. So the whole point for us was the science officer roll first, and on a success, the science officer can ask the GM a question about the enemy ship or discover something about the enemy ship, and we were able to learn that it looks like their shields were down and the back end of the ship was really damaged. So we knew we had to stay at the aft end of the ship. We had to stay behind them.
Yeah, so another thing is probably talking about the shields, because combat is not like Pathfinder where, oh, I'm behind him. It doesn't really mean a whole lot because there's no one in front of him, so I don't get a flanking bonus. It's just I'm behind him, I guess. But again, that's kind of like fluff in terms of how you would describe the battle. Here it actually matters because you have a shield that covers in all four directions. So you have one in your port, one in your aft, one in your starboard, and one of your like in your front. So then you're just like, oh, okay, so where you position is actually very key because if you keep hitting the same shield, eventually it'll go down. But if you move to the left side after you're shooting the right, the shield's totally fine on that side. So you want to like try to position yourself to keep battering it down. So it becomes a game of movement, and positioning is extremely important in this scenario. And it's also important because your guns are positioned in certain angles where if I'm in the front, my back gun cannot shoot in that direction.
Yeah, or I know the enemy ship we were fighting had a huge laser cannon in the front. So as long as we stayed behind them, they couldn't shoot the huge laser cannon.
Exactly. So it becomes like a game of, okay, I need to be here and you need to be here. So how do I make this work? And that's why movement is so key in like this combat system, which is honestly kind of surprising because other ship combats I've played, like in other games, it's nowhere near as like concise as this. It's like, oh, are you in the right phase? Oh, you're in the wrong phase, so you can't hit each other. I'm like, why is this happening? I don't understand. And it just becomes easier. Okay, I'm just going to board them. Yeah, we're just going to run to them and board them. This is going to be so much easier.
Yeah, we never got around to that.
Yeah, that was the next session.
I don't know if from what I can tell from the sheets that we were given, I don't think boarding is a thing that you do until after you've destroyed the ship.
Yeah, no, that's again, we didn't get to play it all the way.
And of course, that's something that the GM can decide if it's possible or.
I jump out into space and I hope I land. Well, you missed, and now you're going towards the next planet. Guys, pick me up when you're done.
Yeah, the other thing that was interesting is each ship is of a different class or a different make, and that affects certain things about them. So their turning radius is slower, or something like that. So like our ship, you had to travel 1 octagon forward before turning. You couldn't just turn before turning 1 degree. You couldn't just turn, right. You had to turn. If you're facing
you had to go
straight
forward and then be able.
If you were facing north, you had to turn northwest first, then drive 1 square northwest, or not 1 square, 1 octagon northwest, then turn west, then drive 1 square west. And that that eats up your movement. But we were lucky because our ship had a turning radius of 1, and their ship had a turning radius of 2, so we were able to maneuver better around them. But how that balances out is pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, no, and I think that at least in terms of this like overall system, it was a lot of fun. 2, it felt like no matter what, I was doing something useful as a player. I don't know how it would work with like a larger party or for a smaller party because it sounds like you would have to sacrifice things. Like I guess we just don't have a gunner, but they're shooting. We just don't have a gunner.
That's when you could put NPCs.
Yeah, exactly. But like at the same time, then it's like, well, I'm fighting myself, and oh man, it just landed. Okay, guys, yeah, where are you moving to? Oh, and I shoot again. Like that's just not fun for the GM. But like in terms of ship combat, that's like the only flaw. Like you have too many people or too little people.
Well, the other thing I like too is the captain has the option to intimidate the enemy, which I just found really charming.
Well, that
as yes. Because it just reminds me so much of Star Trek, and I love it.
There's also like at least from what I can see from like ship customization, is like we were fighting against undead. They don't need life support. They don't need air, so they don't have life support. Whereas we have life support, so if they hit our life support, we're actually screwed.
That's really cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah, so I was like, that's such an interesting idea because I can throw like an undead like battalion at you guys now, and then suddenly it's like, guys, our normal tactic of destroy the air supply for them is now no longer an option. We actually have to kill them. It's like, but we don't have anything for that.
Yeah, and we were fighting undead in our playtest, but you can imagine there's probably other races and stuff that have other things like that. But I had a good time. I felt like there was a little bit of an issue with balance of what people were doing. At least when comparing, say, the pilot to the science officer. Because I know the science officer got to roll for his thing, and that's about it. Meanwhile, I was talking with the captain to maneuver the ship, and I was talking with you to make sure you could shoot the guns in the right position, and et cetera, et cetera.
Nah, literally the ship they gave us that just put a turret that was just better. That was like, can aim in every direction was just better than every other gun on the ship. So the way they designed it is as the gunner, you're always going to be able to make a roll, which I enjoyed, but at the same time, like, you're not doing a whole lot as the gunner. You're like, I'm going to shoot it. Oh, that was a 2. Okay, I'm not going to shoot him.
You're not doing much as the science officer either.
The science officer, I mean, like, the first few rounds seem interesting. Like, what can I find out? Or like,
but once
But once you're like, they have no shields. So what else is there?
But I'm pretty sure the other option there, and I don't think we ever did this, but I'm pretty sure the science officer could have ran and manned a gun.
I mean, yeah, that was always an option. But at the same time, I'm like, click, click up. I got 2 guns shooting at him. This is great. It's not like Star Wars where I have to physically run up and then go back down to shoot the second gun.
Yeah, I think you do get a second attack or third attack if you have a second gunner though.
Yeah. If you have a second person, it's just like someone else helping push the buttons for me, which is always great. But it's more like Star Trek, where they're just kind of sitting there. There's no one like getting on the gun and shooting.
But at the same time, like I think FTL is a good way to put it too, because you can reallocate what you're doing and who's doing what.
I think having the captain as an option is also really cool because it's like you have this extra person to just help. Like, oh, we need another gunner. Okay, cool. Captain, go help shoot. Captain, the pilot's dead. Well, I guess I'm flying this ship now, guys.
Yeah. But no, I enjoyed the system a lot. At least for what we played with Starship Combat. I don't think I'd really needed to play any of the regular combat because I'm gonna imagine it's pretty similar to like gunslinger rules in Pathfinder.
It's a bit different.
I know you can't. There's no like 5-foot step. There's no
5-foot steps taken away from you because that'd be oh, I'm gonna hit him. No, 5-foot step away. 5-foot step away. Just safety. Starfinder, the differences aren't a lot. The big one I think for me is that one, obviously not as much customization yet, just because the game is newer. So what I'm talking about is there is a race that has 4 arms. There's no feat that lets me attack 4 times if I have 4 guns in my hands. Just because that'd be broken in comparison. Like, the full attack is always just 2. You can never go beyond just 2 attacks around. So, it's just things in the system. They don't have enough feats and whatnot. The other thing is that items, because they're not like, oh, I have a magical sword that gets stronger every time I kill a person, it's, well, I have a pistol. Yeah, it's like every other pistol.
You can't really enchant.
Yeah, the answer for them is, oh yeah, no. There's better manufacturers, so your weapons also go up in level. So you don't.
You can level up your weapons.
Yeah, so you don't just manage your level; you also manage the level of your equipment. So it's like, oh, I have a level 3 sword now. What does that mean? Well, it hurts more, but the bonuses to hit don't change. It just levels up because they're going to have more health, so you need to do more damage.
Which I kind of like, though, because then you can have a character with a weapon that's theirs, because...
Exactly.
Because Pathfinder and...
Well, no, because in Pathfinder's like, okay, I've killed the bandage. Or you just
flat out ignore whatever weapon you're using and try to get your bonuses elsewhere.
Yeah, and you have to deal with the whole, like, going to item shops and, like, stocking item shops.
Mm-hmm. Well, so another thing is that, like, oh, I've killed the bandit chief. What does he have? He has a great axe. Well, it's not a magical great axe. I'm not going to take that. Just sell it. Every time. Is it magical? No. Okay, I'm getting rid of it.
But I know from my experience with Pathfinder, there's so often I just don't either change weapons or I just find a way to get my bonuses without messing with what weapon I'm using, whether it be like add your strength or add your dex.
I think part of that comes down to the amount of customization. Like, literally, I could pick any weapon and there's enough feats that I could probably make it usable at some point. Whereas in this, we're not there yet. They have a good
I kind of like the leveling weapon thing though.
Yeah, no, it's like, it's a cool idea, and I didn't know how they would address that when I first started Starfinder. I'm like, how are they going to get good weapons? Because every pistol should be, like, a pistol.
Yeah, well, you could do it the Fallout style. Like, yeah, there's only one kind of, like, 44mm pistol, but you, like, have augmentations.
Exactly, and that's the route they went for, which I'm glad that they did, because, oh my god, it'd be boring if every pistol was the exact same, like in Stars Without Number.
But yeah. Overall, thumbs up to how that was handled. They had enough tables where I think they were getting a good amount of people in and out, and they timed it. They timed it too. So if you weren't done with the session, that's it. You're done. We almost won. I think we had 4 HP left on the enemy ship or something before we had to leave.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, we almost killed them.
But I mean, it has to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Or else you got the other situation where they're only demoing 25 people a weekend.
Yeah, which I felt terrible about that, but overall, when it came to the event itself, I think there are some things that were handled pretty well, and then I think the sign up stuff wasn't handled very well.
Well, it's also their first time doing. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying is
Well, no, so I think something notable to do that we have to mention is that the tickets never sold out. Like, there were still 3-day passes. I think Saturday was like the closest to being sold out, or maybe the only one being sold out, but that was it. Every other day was saved.
There were still a lot of people.
I mean, yeah, there's still a lot of people, but I think the venue was big enough to handle it.
Yeah.
I was also surprised at how many people went to the free play area. I was actually very surprised. Because I guess I can see it in the sense that if you can't get the games that you wanted to play, what are you going to do? Just play some free games over there. Maybe you can buy them later on. Because, I didn't make the list for all these things. We were lucky enough that we made the lists on the second day, and the first day we just went out to buy our things.
Yeah.
So it worked out well for us. I mean, I wish I could have played Sentinels or go into the free area and play I want to do like a Dungeon World game, or I want to do a 5e game or a Pathfinder game.
Yeah, I kind of
I wish I could have, but there are just so many other things to do that I'm like, it's fine. I can play those games with other people, but me trying these new board games.
Yeah, there was a games on demand area where you can go and sign up for just one shots RPG stuff. And we never got around to that either, but the line for that was incredibly long.
No, every time I went when you guys were playing Hand of Fate, there was no openings. Every time I went, they were like, "Nah, we're full for the rest of the day." I'm like, "Okay, I guess."
Yeah, and the doors opened at 9, and at 9 o'clock there was lines waiting for the.
Yeah,
for
because
the
you
play.
had to make a decision. Do I want to play a tabletop RPG first, or do I want to go to the main hall? Because the main hall also had a line, so I was like, well, I gotta choose one or the other.
Well, I mean, the main hall had a lot of free giveaways too. It was like, hey, do you want this free tote bag?
We each got like a game. We got loot boxes were also like up to a degree. Like they only had they had a limited.
Well, that was interesting. It was $40, and you get just 4 random games in a box.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it was 33 if you bought 3 boxes. It was $99 if you bought 3 boxes instead of.
So that's what we did because we had 3 people. So it was like, we'll all get one. We'll all like trade it around here and there. The games were interesting, but I mean, I haven't tried them all yet because some of them are same. You need 5 people for this. I'm like, okay. Don't have 5 people on me, so this is gonna be.
Yeah, I think mostly we played board games though.
Yeah, no, I mean that's really what it's about. Playing a tabletop RPG still takes if you want a good session, you can't really stop at 1 hour. You have to go longer than that. So.
And I was pretty sure there were people in the hotels playing stuff too, but we never got around to meeting up with anybody who wasn't just the 3 of us.
That's because we got massively drunk on one of those days.
Oh yeah, well that's the other thing with Philly is they don't sell beer anywhere.
They only have fine wine and good spirits, and that's owned by the government. So.
Yeah, it took so long to find just a 6-pack. But
we had to go into a road there was a demolished area, and there's a garage. The beer was in the garage. It was very strange.
Yeah, well we found it.
Yeah, we found it, but it was an interesting
Overall, I'm excited to go next year. I want to go again. Tickets were, I think they were appropriately priced.
I don't even remember the price. I'm going to be honest.
It was $90.
Cheaper than a PAX East ticket.
Yeah, well, it was $90 for 3 days. And I know PAX East is $100 for 2.
Okay, yeah.
Well, it is a pretty niche topic. They have to make the price appropriate for that. They didn't sell out.
That's true.
We can tell by the droves of our fans that everyone's not always into tabletops. We're a small but humble group.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd plan for next year if I went back again though was to figure out what it is I wanted to do for the first day and just get all my signups done.
I actually think they could benefit from
because that was my biggest.
I wish the Thursday was open or a Monday. That would help a lot, honestly.
Because they had Thursday. Thursday was a day, but it was.
There's mostly only developers and press or VIPs who got into that, from what I understand. Because those days weren't available on the site. Mm-hmm. So.
We didn't go to any panels either, but I think a bunch of.
I mean, what am I gonna watch as a GM? The best kills I've ever the best TPKs I've ever had. Okay, that's a fun story to read, but I don't want to.
There was one I wish we went to, which was the GM improv show.
Yeah, no, that's the only thing I wish I had gone to. If I had a beer, I probably would have tried to get in there, but otherwise, yeah.
Well, no. I'm pretty sure we can find that online though. I think
Yeah,
they recorded
probably.
that.
Most likely.
That was the other thing too. Is I was like, I could watch this after the con. I'll watch it after.
Yeah, but it's kind of different at the other PAX. It's because it's like, oh, we're showing. I don't know. Like the only big one I know that everyone wanted to get into was most definitely D&D: The Acquisitions Incorporated.
Yeah.
Like because it's their like they do it at every PAX, and this is a PAX dedicated to board games. So of course they're gonna go watch D&D.
Well, I know Critical Role was there as well.
Yeah, you have like all
So
the
people
big
were
names.
excited for that.
But yeah, no, overall, it's like, I'm
Um,
glad that we have it, because before then, all we've really had is like Gen Con and Dragon Con, and Dragon Con is like a con for everything, so it doesn't really even count for Dragon Con. But Gen Con, I just can't get over there. It's not like a 2-hour drive like it is to Philly, so.
Well, that was the other thing. It's so close by. I think it was good for a first year thing. The overall impressions were good.
I mean, yeah, nothing is said about it over at Reddit. You know, it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. Not amazing, but fine.
Yeah, if I didn't read about his disaster on Reddit, then, you know, it must have gone alright.
It was weird because I saw other posts and someone was like, "Does anyone know where I can find a beer in this city?" And I was just like,
Yeah, I know there were people.
Sorry.
Reddit was mostly people organizing meetups.
That
Like, hey, let's go.
that store would have gone so much business. I think that's the biggest thing. If I was doing it again, I would bring my own beer from New York, just
Yeah.
because I don't want to go back down that road and seem like a person who is an alcoholic, because we went every single day. I think.
We did. We got a 6-pack a day. No, but
Yeah,
I mean,
that
that's not what mattered.
we needed it for Drinking Quest. Let's be honest here. Drinking Quest demands that we have alcohol, except the last round, which we only made to once. Second time we didn't get there.
But yeah, tabletops and conventions. I don't know how well they mesh. just because of how long it takes to do.
So actually, wait. Let me ask you, Dan. You've been to a couple lands before, right? Up in yeah. Did they ever have anything like board games or whatever there? It was all video games.
No, it's all video games.
Okay, that's what I expected, but yeah.
There was like, there was a rock paper scissors tournament. So
Oh man, that's true unplugged right there. We don't even have any
This
tools.
is about as unplugged as it gets.
The only other unplugged game I can think of is that I think it's an Inuit tradition with the
the ancient game of chopsticks. I know.
No, what's the one where you put the rubber band on your ears and you pull?
I've never
God,
heard of
That's
this.
that's a thing. That's a thing. I'll link it in the
I
description.
thought we were talking about chopsticks, but okay.
No, I'll link it. It exists. Anyway,
But yeah, I kind of agree with what you were going towards there before, Arthur. I don't think it's like I wasn't particularly interested in this event because like I don't want to like go to a convention where like I play a game for 45 minutes and then I get kicked out.
mm-hmm.
That's not really like what RPGs are to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be there 4 hours and then get kicked out. That's how it works.
Well, you have to be there 4
and then,
hours.
like, see, it's like a serial thing.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
For me, like there's not that see you next week or see you when we can meet up again aspect to it.
I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
like, just generally like at least playing the board games that much works for it. But the tabletop RPGs, I definitely agree that
Yeah,
they
board
need a
games probably
different
works
answer
just
for
fine.
that. Like they need more GMs or something on hand to make that like work. Because playing like an hour and then I'm like, well, that was kind of cool, I guess, and then just walk off doesn't really mean a whole lot to me.
Yeah, it's unsatisfying.
I mean, I can imagine because another section of PAX that we did only try once for was the like testing area for guys who haven't even published their game yet. They were still in the testing phases.
The unpub
Yeah.
area. Fantastic.
And,
I
we
loved it.
played a game that we loved. It was just about being forest rangers or something. We all had our own fire tower. The goal was to burn all the other towers down and survive. I died first because I tried to be everyone's friend. But I hate you for
Yeah,
that,
that sounds
Arthur,
about
because
right.
you stabbed me in the back. But it's fine. It's fine.
Check. Yeah. I'll shamelessly plug
I don't know what the name
that
of
game.
that
It's
game
called
is.
Fire Tower.
It
And
was
it's not
Firestorm
on.
or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It was Fire Tower.
Fire
I
Tower?
Yeah, I have the card. It was really fun, and the rule for who goes first was made up by me, at the event.
As of right now, they might change it later. Who knows?
They might change it later, but as of right now, I gave them an idea for that.
Yeah, but anyway,
which felt nice.
Yeah, but I wish they could do that for RPGs to a degree. But again, testing an RPG takes 4 hours. But I think if they did that, that would be still really cool. Like, they have, like, a little room for that. Like, oh, these are an RPG I'm working on. Can you come test it? Because getting people to test that you don't know is really hard to do. Because if I made a game and I asked you guys to test it, I can't take 100% of what you guys say as, like, oh, yeah, that's the answer I need. Whereas at a con like this, where everyone is willing to play a game, especially if there's no line for it, I'm sure people would be willing to try and say, no, I don't like that about your system. And then you can, like, use that. It's a great way to figure out what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, I guess the definite upside of that convention is, like, if there was something without a line, like, people would be right there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, there was, I know, like, Codenames was just walk up and play.
Yeah, Codenames would walk up and play, that little, like, tic-tac-toe game that you had that we all played.
Oh, that was amazing. Pocket Ops?
Yeah, Pocket
Fantastic.
Ops. Yeah, that was a fun game. They have a giant tic-tac board, and there's, like, different classes, like, different special weapons you can have for, like, this game of tic-tac-toe. I'm like, tic-tac-toe has never been so difficult in my life.
Yeah, it's tic-tac-toe, but with a bit of a twist to it, which I enjoyed. Your opponent gets to guess where you're going to place your piece, and if they guessed correctly, you can't place your piece there for that turn.
That's just generally how the game works, and then
you lose your turn. You lose your turn.
Yeah, nothing happens.
And then every round you get to pick a special weapon, which it moves stuff around on the board, or
or just kills something on the board, or it's like
you can take over an opponent's spot, or you can push your opponent's pieces, or you can pull your pieces. It's complicated, but it's not that complicated.
It's not that complicated,
I enjoyed it.
It's interesting because
I bought it immediately. It was my first purchase of the con.
It's because when you have that power, the other person has to be wary of it because you both know what you have. But you can choose to use it whenever. So if there's a guy that pushes another one, well, I'm not going to put a guy in the middle because I know he's going to be pushed out immediately.
Mm-hmm. Or if you're positioning your pieces so that you can win, you got to make sure your opponent doesn't have that one that switches to, and then they can switch your two pieces and
something
win.
Like that.
You have to be thinking about it.
Which was fun, but again, we did like a roulette kind of style, like, oh, I lost your turn, oh, I lost your turn.
Sounds like tic-tac-toe meets Uno.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Next time we all hang out, I'll bring it along because it's literally.
It's a tiny game. They had a giant board, but it's tiny in actuality.
Oh, good on them for making the giant board, though, because that caught our attention pretty fast.
Yeah, there was also no line, which helped.
Yeah. Well, I was literally at 9 o'clock the first day, too.
Well, yeah, and there was just a lot of people everywhere, so.
Mm-hmm. But, to kind of bring it back a little bit, we're talking about testing tabletops and stuff like that. I think, to bring it back to the beginning of the episode, too, that's why I think Sentinels started with the starter kit. Because I think the hardest part about testing a tabletop game is teaching the rules and making and building a character. Like, you need to have pre-mades out. Which is why I think the starter kit with Sentinels works. Because I don't think... I think it was made specifically for testing out the system before you decide to go full in on it.
Yeah, no, that's a really smart move on them. They're banking on the popularity of the characters in the game before to make this work.
And the starter set was like $20. Well, I can imagine the book would be what, 35, 40 for the full thing.
40 or 30. But my question is still, how do you let me make a character, and how do you make me balance that character like appropriately in comparison to these other people?
Yeah, we'll learn that down the line when they come out with the rest of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's how you have to test the tabletops, is basically have everything set up and be like, here's a scenario you're going to do. You're fighting like 5 people or 2 people, 3 people, whatever. I think the people who are creating the game have to test it and time it and see what is the appropriate amount of time to give people to, you know?
Yeah, a lot, again, like, this is the first...
You need to put a lot of thought into it, and the guy who was demoing Hands of Fate did not put thought into how he was demoing that. Although I really did enjoy
Well, I
it,
mean, I
and
asked you guys after you guys played it, and it sounded like there's no way to shorten it because the HP is like
oh yeah,
2, 3. The boss has 4 HP. Well, God, man, how do you shorten that? You drop everything from 2 to 1? That's not a real fun game anymore.
yeah. It takes a while, and most of it is learning the rules. So
Exactly.
a lot of our time was eaten up asking him like, wait, how do you do this? Well, the other thing I
Yeah,
know
I can
that
imagine.
How do
yeah,
I
the other
kill
thing
this thing? Well, you see, you played this card.
How do I play this game?
yeah. Well, I know the other thing too was he didn't have a time limit set for us. It was whenever you finish, which is why the signups were so
There's such a big gap.
scarce. Yeah, because
The first one was
you
like
can
at
take
9 or something like that.
it was it's 11 o'clock. There's one at 11 o'clock and one at 4 o'clock, and he took a lunch break between the two. So I think he's told us because the convention hall closed at 6. At least the main hall closed at 6. So he was expecting I think 2 hours, and we finished ours in an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, I was
But I
surprised
can
when
imagine.
you guys were done. I was like, oh, okay, I'm
Yeah,
in
but
the
like,
area.
most of us who were sat there had played games similar to it before, because it kind of felt like Munchkin, a little like a complicated Munchkin. That's the best way to put it. It was like it was complicated Munchkin. But I can imagine people who aren't familiar with games like that would probably take up the whole 2 hours because they're probably going to ask him a question every 5 minutes, if he's not too busy talking with somebody else about how they can't sign up for the thing.
Because everyone is asking that question.
Yeah. Either way, I had fun with the game itself. I had fun at the convention. I thought it was great. There's room for improvement when it comes to figuring out how you sign up for stuff and how that stuff works out. But as for a first rodeo, I think it went pretty good.
Yeah, no, I can see them considering this a success.
Definitely.
Having gone to PAX East, I can definitely say that I was not as tired after each day in comparison. PAX East, I just feel so tired after it because I'm like, I've walked, I've waited in line for so long, and now I'm finally done. And what do I have? I have like a free magazine and like a deck of cards from Magic. That's about it.
Yeah, and PAX East, you're staring at computer screens the whole time too, which gets exhausting. But I think there's something active about board games and tabletops, that kind of keeps you awake, just keeps your mind going.
Which is actually weird because I feel like I was a lot more attentive to just like playing the games. I'm like, no, I need to figure this out. Okay, play that card. Okay, I have one stir fry. Cool. I have the chicken, I have the shrimp, and I have the beef. I win.
Yeah, you think a lot more.
Yeah, I feel like I think a lot more.
Keeps us awake.
Whereas if I'm playing Don't Starve together over at PAX East when that game first was there, I was just like, I'm gonna drop all my stones here for you to use because I'm actually I'm timing out in a minute, so that's all I can do. I'm sorry.
Yeah, although PAX East does handle the time stuff a little bit better, but they tend to just kick you out after 5 minutes of gameplay.
Actually, I think we should probably mention this. There actually was one game that was not technically unplugged. It was a video game.
No.
Yes, they had one video game.
That's illegal.
I don't know how they can consider it as a board game or any kind of game like it. It feels like it will only work in this scenario for on a video game with 4 controllers. That's the only way I could see it being played. At least in the current iteration of it.
Well, tell me about it.
I enjoyed it. It was
it's
Sumer,
real.
Was it?
So basically, you are 4 priestesses or something like that, where you're going to be chosen as the next god or something along the next leader, but you have to prove to the god that you can offer enough favor, sacrifices, offerings in general, just to prove it. So you have you start off with 2 slaves, and okay, I need this one slave to go get me some wheat. And then we'll have the other slave go get me some goats or something like that. And then the next turn you all go to sleep. And then the next turn it's, okay, now that I have the wheat, I can go make bread. And then I can go offer the bread next turn to the goddess. Something like that. And it's just managing your time and resources. But the problem is that all the resources are open to everyone. So if someone gets there before you, you cannot do that action anymore.
So it's like Settler as Catan, except instead of dumping the resources into buildings, you just get rid of them.
Dump it into favor.
But see
But it's set up on a board that looks like an Aztec temple. So it's like this Aztec temple. At the top is where you give all the offerings, but all the bottom of the temple and all the layers going up are full of rooms, and those rooms could be, there's a goat room, there's a wheat room, there's a bread making room, and you have to run, literally use the controllers to run your character to each of the rooms and press A to place a servant there. And once you place your servant there, no one else can place a servant
But see, the
there.
problem becomes, it's like, how would you make that an actual board game? Because it's so real time that it makes no sense.
Yeah, part of it is like, oh, I'm going to run to that goat thing right next to you and lock you out of goats because you need goats for whatever your offering is
Yeah.
going to be. So like, oh, I'm going to lock you out of that.
And like there's there's
points,
multiple
yeah.
phases. We didn't get to play all the phases because again it was a demo.
We played three rounds, and between round 2 and 3
There was like an auction. All the stuff you had gathered in between, you could use it as a way to like, oh, I want to be the only person with a bread maker, or I want to be the only one that is able to make pottery.
Well, no, it's not like that. It's just basically you get
you basically do become that because you can choose where to place it. So you're gonna be like, I'm putting it next to my house. Why not?
yeah.
And then like
You put it
later
near
on, they're
you
like,
in the
oh, you
temple.
can have like another bed to sleep, so you can have a different starting point. So it's
Yeah, because if you're the first one to sleep, you also get bonus
exactly.
points for some reason. I enjoyed it. I think the guy was saying
That thing kind of sounds like it needs to be a video.
exactly yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, there's no way it can't be. But I'm curious on how it got into Unplugged.
But at the same time, it has that board game kind of flair.
Yeah,
to
it feels
was
like
the
a board
only-
game.
It's
but
like
it's
how the Sentinels of
Unplugged.
the multiverse video game, like it just takes all the bullshit out of playing.
That's true. Well, that's the other thing is of all the tables, it was Sumer. It was called. Sumer it was playing on Switch, and then Sentinels had all the iPads out, and that was
Actually, no. That
those
was
are-
Halba Bros or something like that. The guys who made the Sentinel games. No, they had a different booth. Sentinels also had it, but they actually the developers had another booth where they were doing, I believe, like dungeon, like one deck dungeon or something like that, where they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna demo, like, this game is coming out soon online, but this is an actual card game. So it seems like that, like, yeah, you're playing a board game, but at the same time, this one, like, Sumer was unique because I don't know how you can make that an actual board game. There's, like, no way to transport it. Like, you can't translate it into a board game because the mechanics require real time.
Yeah, what is it? It's whoever's hand puts down like their servant
No, I
token
put my
on
hand
the
here
room
first. Like, yeah, no.
Yeah. And then I tapped my bed first. I don't know.
Like, again,
Probably with like dice rolls and squares, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. But again, that's like, it'd be very different. It would feel very
It
different.
worked really well as a game though, as a video game. I enjoyed it. I'll probably pick it up when it comes out. Just
Yeah, it's a
as
fun party game.
A little something. Yeah, I think it was like $15 or $10. Like,
I'm not
I'll
gonna
drop
lie, because it was like we were the very last people to play it, or it was like it was about to close. My mind was gone. I didn't know what I was doing. I was jumping up. I'm like, oh, a goat, cool, I'll get a goat, and I didn't know what the goats did.
yeah. No, I kind of figured it out, but
I think I was a round behind everyone else. I was like, what are we doing? Oh, okay, you put the wheat in there. Okay, I understand now.
yeah, what I like about events like that is, when I go to play board games or stuff, I usually stick to what I know. I was able to play some games I wouldn't have played any other way. I was able to buy some games I wouldn't have bought any other way either.
Yeah, cons definitely have a way of making you spend money like that.
Ooh,
Oh,
when you
that's
have an
true.
entire area made for loot boxes, yeah, definitely.
There's a reason why
Spend
they
$40
keep
and
using them.
just get 4 random games. Oh man,
Loot
I can't
boxes
wait to see.
IRL.
Yeah, well,
This is also going on.
there's a reason why they work, There's a reason why
Works
they keep
very
putting
well.
them in the games.
Well, it worked well for us because we can also sell them later on. Like, I know our friend was saying that he wanted to sell it when he got back to the city, because there was a place to sell it, but it was like the game cost like $25. They were selling it for $25. They offered him $6 for it. So he's just like, I'm going to hold on to this and sell it back in the city because makes a bit more sense.
But yeah, so I think that's our con experience. Yeah, we enjoyed it, Justin and I.
Yeah, Dan, you didn't go because
Oh yeah, I sat home. It was great.
that's good.
Yeah,
Loved
well,
every
I
second
do
of
wish
it.
I had time to sit home too. Like today's my only day. I've actually been able to sit home all day in the last like 2 or 3 weeks. But yeah, so that I think that's it. We're gonna wrap up.
Yeah, I think we went on a bit longer than we originally thought, but yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I think that's good. So that's the end of the episode. I'll have links in the description to everything, like I usually tell you guys. And yeah, all right. Have a good one.
Bye.